If you know anything about tennis at all, you know that Rafael Nadal has absolutely dominated the clay court scene over the last 20 years or so. So with that in mind, and the Olympics being played at Roland Garros this year, which is Nadal's favorite tournament ever, he's won there 14 times, why is he not considered one of the favorites? Well, the answer to that question is actually very simple. Nadal is 38 years old and is still suffering from a hip injury he got at the Australian Open in 2023. Because of that injury, he had to undergo surgery that took him out for the entire 2023 season. He thought he recovered from his injury in early 2024, but after his loss at the ATP 250 tournament in Brisbane, he told the media that he felt discomfort on his injured hip. Later, it was revealed that that discomfort was because of a slight tear in his hip muscle. So Nadal decided to withdraw from the 2024 Australian Open and later also withdrew from any major tournament before the clay season. So why am I telling you this? It seems pretty obvious that Nadal will have a very little, if not no chance at a second singles gold medal. And well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to make a case for him. But before that, we have to look at what he has done so far on clay this season. Nadal hoped to start his season at the Monte Carlo Masters, where he's won 11 times. He flew from Mallorca to Monte Carlo with high hopes, and he even played a couple of practice sets against top players. But later he withdrew from the tournament because he said that his body didn't feel quite ready for that level of tennis yet. So a week later, on April the 14th, Nadal decided to start his clay court season at the Barcelona Open. So on the 16th of April, Nadal played his first clay court match of the season against Flavio Cobolli and won it 6-2, 6-3 in straight sets. However, after that, he faced the Australian 4th seed Alex de Minaur and lost in straight sets 7-5 and 6-1, with the first set being very competitive, but in the second set you could see that Nadal was struggling to keep his consistency and level of play. After a disappointing week in Barcelona, Nadal hoped his fortunes would turn a corner in Madrid, where he is a 5-time champion, to find a bit of rhythm before the French Open. Fortunately for Nadal, his fortunes seem to have taken a turn for the better in Madrid, winning his first 3 matches, the first one against Darvin Blanche in straight sets 6-1, 6-0, then he beat Alex de Minaur in straight sets, who he lost to the week prior. He beat him 7-6, 6-3, and then he won against Pedro Cachin in 3 sets, 6-1, 6-7, and 6-3. But in the round of 16, he faced a very well-playing Jiří Lehecka. I probably butchered his name, but whatever. He lost against him in straight sets 7-5, 6-4. The same issues coming up for Nadal every time we see him play now. His consistency and level of play shrinks a bit in the second set, and then he struggles to find his rhythm again. Surely not the outcome Nadal had hoped for, but overall I think it was a pretty good week for the Spaniard. He started getting into his rhythm back, into his pattern of play again, the deep forehand topspin into the court, pushing the players or the opponents back further and further, and then going for that topspin forehand down the line, which is his usual pattern on a clay court. He used it really well against de Minaur and Blanche, but then against a very good playing Lehecka, or whatever his name is, he started to struggle because Lehecka, he played really solid and he could return the high topspin forehand with his backhand. He could put pressure on Nadal with his backhand better than any other player could, aka de Minaur and Blanche, or even Cachin. Cachin couldn't really handle the Nadal topspin on his backhand, but Lehecka really did it well, controlling the rallies and not letting him get pushed back by the high topspin forehand that Nadal has. Now, with all that being said, I think Nadal could have still beat Lehecka even if he was playing really well and really using his backhand really well. But the main issue for me and why Nadal lost the match at the end of the day was the little match experience and the little confidence he had in those tough games that he had to win on his serve. You saw that he had a bit of a dip in his performance when it came to those important games or important points, 30-40 breakpoint down. He wasn't really feeling comfortable. Again, the same issue he faced with de Minaur the week prior to that. The good news for Nadal was that there's still one more tournament before the French Open, and that was the Rome Masters, where he's won 10 singles titles. But it would soon to be figured out that that tournament would also have its struggles for him. he would once again start the season on a high note, winning against the Belgium Zoo Bergs 4-6, 6-3, and 6-4, coming back from a set down to show that he has the capabilities of maintaining his level of play and his stamina. But then in the second round, he faced Hubert Hurkacz, a great server and number 7 seed in that tournament, and lost to him in straight sets, 6-1 and 6-3, still struggling to keep his consistency, especially in that game. Hurkacz using his serve to win a lot of easy points and Nadal struggling to get easy and free points against him. So that's how his clay season before the French Open ended. With 8 matches under his belt, Nadal had a record of 5-3. Yes, Nadal finished a clay court season before Roland Garros with a record of 5-3, not winning a single tournament. So that was also just not normal news, because in previous years you would just see him just roll through these tournaments, almost winning, sometimes winning every single one of them, and almost not, losing a set or anything. But this year you could feel it was different. The injury, his consistency, his pattern isn't working as well, and it was just all around a mess of a clay court season for Nadal. Not only was this clay season a very bad clay season for Nadal's standards, and also a bad warm-up for the French Open, more adversity was coming Nadal's way. Because since Nadal has played barely any ATP tournaments or Grand Slams in the last 1.5 years, his rankings plummeted, and that would mean that he would have to take a wild card in the French Open and is not going to be seeded. And what that basically means is that Nadal could play anyone in the first round. He doesn't have the privilege of saying, okay, I know I can wait until the semifinal until I can play Djokovic, or until I can play Sinner, or until I can play Alcaraz. He could play all of them in the first round if he has bad luck. And as his luck would strike it, bad luck would hit him again. On Thursday, a week before the tournament, the draw came out, and it was soon to be figured out that Nadal's first round opponent would be none other than Alexander Zverev, the man who just won the Rome Open. And if anyone knows tennis, they know that the Rome Open is basically the closest courts to the French Open courts. They are very, very similar. The bounce is just the same, the clay slides just as much, so Zverev was coming off of a very, very good form. Not only that, but Zverev probably also had some extra motivation going into this match, because in 2022, the Roland Garros semifinal was set to be Nadal against Zverev, and in the second set, just before the tiebreak, Zverev tragically injured his ankle. I'm probably not going to show the video because it's very gruesome. Maybe I'll show it with a disclaimer or something, I don't know. Obviously, Nadal had nothing to do with it. His foot got stuck in the clay. But basically, after that injury, Zverev struggled to get back to the level he was playing at Roland Garros and at the Rome Open, where he won. So he was probably going into that match with some extra motivation to finish what he started at the semifinal in 2022. The conclusion to the match was Zverev won unsurprisingly in straight sets 6-3, 7-6, 6-3, and beat Nadal, only the third player ever to beat Nadal at the French Open. Now, I'm not going to analyze every single point of the match because that would just take too long, and this video would take about 30 minutes, but what I can say is that it might seem as though Zverev absolutely destroyed Nadal, and I'll give him that he definitely was the better player, but Nadal was actually also not playing too bad. I think it was a big positive for me, more than a negative, to see his level at Roland Garros for the Olympics. For the main point or topic of this video, it was actually a very positive sign. Now, why I think this was a positive sign, because if you look at the stats of the actual match, then if you look at the winners and unforced errors, Nadal was actually matching Zverev in that stat. Zverev was just really serving well and really winning a lot of points on his serve, a lot of easy points, first serve points won. Zverev was dominating in that stat, but when it came to rallies and what Nadal was actually good at, then it was pretty even. It was very even. And also, Nadal was up a break in the second and third set. And that shows you that Nadal could very well match his level of play. The issue again was his consistency. Just as in the tournaments before, his consistency lacked in the important points, or his match experience lacked in the important points. 30-40, break point down, on serve, all of these points he lost in that match against Zverev, and in those sets that he was up a break, he lost that break pretty easily because of lack of consistency. And what way to fix that? Of course, match practice. Even Zverev said that if he would have matched up against Nadal in the fourth round or quarterfinals, the match would have been a lot closer.
I just like the sound of it.
So, after that first round loss in the French Open, Nadal hasn't played another match since. But he's going to play another tournament before the Olympics. It's an ATP 250 tournament in Sweden on a clay court. So while the other guys are, battling for the Wimbledon title, there's still a couple of good players playing in that tournament. I think Senner and Ruud are still playing. Don't know how to pronounce his name really, but forgive me. So they're going to be tired from Wimbledon, and they're going to have to adjust to the clay courts again, to the Olympic clay courts again, because Wimbledon is a grass tournament and the Olympics will be held at Roland Garros. So in conclusion, why do I think that Nadal can win the Olympics? Well, here's my opinion. I already mentioned the tournament in Bastad, Sweden, the ATP 250 tournament, where Nadal will be participating in, and everyone else will have to readjust to the clay courts from Wimbledon. I know some of the players that play in Wimbledon are going to play in that tournament, but it's going to be a bit tougher for them too. It is a best of 3 tournament, not a best of 5 tournament, so they play best of 3 sets in the Olympics and not best of 5. And I think at this point in Nadal's career, that is definitely more of an advantage towards him than anyone else. And lastly, it's Rafael Nadal. The records on clay speak for themselves. The records at the French Open speak for themselves. He has always believed in himself on and off the court. He has always fought until the very end and always believed in himself until the very end, until his body couldn't hold it anymore. I'm not going to give up on him just yet. But then again, that's only my opinion about it. But now I'm wondering, what's your opinion about it? Can Nadal actually win the Olympics? Leave it down in the comments below. If you like hearing my voice and, you like hearing about my opinions, go subscribe to the channel. I also have a TikTok and Twitter account. I know it's called X, but I'm calling it Twitter. They're also down in the description below. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a nice day, and see you soon.
I just like the sound.